I didn't leave my family. I didn't make a statement. And I didn't walk away in anger. I changed quietly. From the outside, it may have looked like nothing happened. But inside, everything was changing, not overnight, not dramatically. Just slowly and intentionally. This isn't a story about rebellion. It's a story about choosing clarity without breaking ties. And it's something I've never explained this way before. Oh, I grew up believing that stability came from certainty. That having clear answers meant you were safe. That doubt was something to avoid, not explore. For a long time, that belief worked for me. I followed the structure I was given. I trusted the framework around me. And I believed that staying within it meant I was doing the right thing. But as I got older, I started noticing something subtle. My confidence depended on not asking certain questions. My peace depended on not thinking too deeply. And my faith felt strong only as long as it stayed unchallenged. At first, I told myself this was normal, that everyone has moments of uncertainty. That doubt didn't mean anything important. So I ignored it. I stayed busy. I stayed positive. I stayed quiet. But quiet questions don't disappear when you ignore them. They wait. They grow in the background, asking patiently to be acknowledged. Marriage changed my pace, not by forcing new beliefs on me, but by giving me space to slow down. For the first time, I wasn't surrounded by constant expectations. I wasn't being observed the same way. I had room to read, to think, to reflect, without immediate correction. And in that space, something became clear. Faith shouldn't feel fragile. It shouldn't collapse under curiosity. And it shouldn't require fear to stay intact. The realization didn't make me angry. It made me careful. I didn't want to reject everything I came from. I didn't want to hurt my family. And I didn't want to create distance where it wasn't necessary. I just wanted honesty. So I began doing something very quietly. I separated belief from environment, conviction from expectation, truth from tradition. I asked myself what I believed, not what I had inherited, not what I was expected to say, but what actually felt true to me. That process wasn't public, it wasn't shared online, and it wasn't meant to be debated, because some changes aren't about proving a point. They're about finding peace. People often assume that if someone doesn't leave loudly, then nothing really changed. But the quietest changes are often the deepest ones. I didn't walk away from my family. I didn't cut ties. I didn't reject my past. I chose to grow without breaking what still mattered. And that choice, that quiet shift, is what people noticed without fully understanding. For a long time, I believed fear was part of faith. Not openly, not intentionally, but quietly, it was there. Fear of being wrong, fear of asking the wrong question, fear that curiosity might undo everything I had been taught to protect. I didn't call it fear back then. I called it reverence. I called it discipline. I called it obedience. But fear and faith sound very similar when you're raised not to question. I learned early on that certainty was praised, confidence was admired, and answers were valued more than understanding. So I held on tightly. I believed that strong faith meant never wavering. That conviction meant never pausing. That trust meant never doubting. But over time, something became clear. If faith is real, it shouldn't be afraid of questions. And if belief is true, it shouldn't depend on silence to survive. That realization didn't come all at once. It came slowly through reading, reflection, and quiet conversations. I noticed how often fear had shaped my decisions. Not fear of God, but fear of disapproval, fear of misunderstanding, fear of stepping outside expectations. And I began asking myself a different kind of question. What if faith wasn't supposed to feel tense? What if peace, not pressure, was the sign I should be paying attention to? I didn't want to replace one rigid belief system with another. I didn't want to swing from certainty to confusion. I wanted something steadier, something honest, something that didn't require constant defense. So I let myself explore, not publicly, not dramatically, just carefully. I read perspectives I hadn't been exposed to before. I listened to voices that approached that belief with humility instead of fear. And for the first time, faith felt less like a test and more like a relationship. That shift didn't separate me from my family. It helped me understand myself. I didn't stop believing. I stopped being afraid of belief. And that distinction matters. Fear keeps you quiet. Faith gives you peace. I wasn't trying to convince anyone else. I wasn't trying to make a statement. I was trying to be sincere. There's a difference between inherited faith and chosen faith. Inherited faith tells you what to think. Chosen faith asks you to understand why. Choosing for myself didn't mean rejecting where I came from. It meant taking responsibility for where I was going. And I realized something else along the way. You can grow without severing ties. You can evolve without creating distance. And you can change quietly without making anyone else feel threatened. My faith didn't disappear. It matured. It became less about rules and more about integrity, less about fear and more about grace. And in that space, that calm, steady space, I found clarity. Not because I had all the answers, but because I finally felt safe asking questions. People often assume that change requires distance. That growth only happens when you leave everything behind. That clarity demands separation. But that was never my goal. I didn't want to walk away from my family. I didn't want to make my life a statement. And I didn't want to turn personal growth into a public divide. For me, change wasn't about escape. It was about intention. I knew that the Gothard started. I knew that leaving loudly would answer questions quickly, but it would also close doors I wasn't ready to shut. I still valued connection. I still valued history, and I still cared deeply about the people who raised me. What I needed wasn't distance from them. It was distance from pressure. There's a difference. Pressure demands agreement. Connection allows difference. I learned that you don't have to announce your evolution for it to be real. You don't have to explain every shift for it to be valid. And you don't have to burn bridges to build a healthier life on the other side. I chose to change quietly because quiet change leaves room for grace. It leaves room for conversation, for understanding, for relationships to adapt and instead of break. That didn't mean everything stayed the same. Some dynamics shifted. Some expectations softened. Some conversations became more careful, but I was okay with that. I wasn't interested in proving anything. I was interested in living honestly. I also knew something else. Not everyone needs access to every part of your internal journey. Some changes are meant to be lived, not debated. So I focused on my own home, on my marriage, on the environment I wanted to create. An environment where belief didn't feel fragile, where questions weren't threatening, and where growth didn't require permission. Walking away would have felt decisive, but staying and changing quietly felt intentional. It allowed me to hold both truth and compassion at the same time. I didn't walk away because I didn't need to. I found a way to grow without turning my back on what still mattered, and that choice to stay connected while becoming myself was harder than leaving. But it was also truer. When people noticed the change, they filled in the gaps themselves. Some assumed I had rejected everything. Others believed I was being influenced. A few thought I was trying to make a statement. None of that was true. The hardest part about changing quietly is knowing that people will misunderstand you and choosing not to correct them. I wasn't trying to prove anyone wrong. I wasn't trying to rewrite my past, and I wasn't trying to distance myself from where I came from. I was trying to live honestly. From the outside, subtle changes can look dramatic. Different words, different tone, different priorities. But what people didn't see was how careful the process had been. I didn't wake up one day and decide to believe something new. I spent years listening, years reflecting, years asking myself hard questions without rushing toward answers. I didn't abandon faith. I abandoned fear. And that distinction matters. Fear creates urgency. Faith creates patience. Fear demands certainty. Faith allows humility. Many people thought my quiet shift meant I was uncomfortable with my family. The truth is, I was uncomfortable with pretending that questions didn't exist, pretending that growth was disloyal, pretending that staying the same was the only way to stay connected. I learned that misunderstanding is sometimes the price of integrity. You can clarify endlessly and still be misread. So I stopped trying to manage perception and focused on alignment. I also learned that silence isn't always avoidance. Sometimes it's restraint. It's the choice not to turn your life into a public explanation. I didn't need everyone to agree with me. I needed to be at peace with myself. And that peace didn't come from convincing others. It came from consistency. Living the same values privately that I expressed quietly, showing change through actions, not declarations. Over time, I realized something freeing. People who truly wanted to understand eventually did, without needing an announcement. And those who didn't were never going to be convinced anyway. My change wasn't meant to be defended. It was meant to be lived. And living it quietly allowed me to protect what still mattered. My family, my relationships, and my own sense of peace. Staying the quiet wasn't about hiding. It was about protecting. Protecting relationships that still mattered. Protecting conversations that needed time. Protecting a kind of peace that disappears when everything becomes public. I understood early on that once a story is told loudly, it no longer belongs to you. It belongs to opinions, to interpretations, to people who don't carry the weight of the consequences. I wasn't willing to give that away. Silence gave me space to move carefully, to choose words instead of reacting, to let change settle instead of forcing it to prove itself. I didn't need to win an argument. I needed to keep my integrity. Staying quiet protected my family from becoming a headline. It protected private conversations from turning into public debates. And it protected my own heart from being hardened by defensiveness. There's a difference between secrecy and privacy. Secrecy hides fear. privacy creates safety. I chose privacy. It allowed me to keep showing up for the people I loved without turning every interaction into a negotiation about beliefs. It allowed my relationships to adjust slowly without pressure to choose sides. And it allowed me to keep my faith personal instead of performative. Staying quiet also protected my growth. Growth is fragile at the beginning. It needs room. It needs patience. It needs the freedom to be unfinished. Public scrutiny doesn't offer that. So I gave myself permission to be in process without narrating every step. I learned that you can honor your past without freezing yourself inside it. And you can move forward without announcing where you're going. Silence wasn't an absence of courage. It was a form of discipline, the discipline to wait, to listen, to choose peace over pressure. And in that waiting, something unexpected happened. The changes that mattered most didn't need explaining. They became visible in how I lived, in what I prioritized, in the tone of my voice, in the way I carried myself. Staying quiet didn't erase misunderstanding, but it prevented resentment. And resentment would have cost me far more than being misunderstood ever did. I didn't stay quiet because I was afraid. I stayed quiet because I was intentional. Because some things grow best when they're allowed to stay gentle. Quiet change doesn't arrive all at once. It moves slowly, almost invisibly, until one day you realize the atmosphere feels different. That's how it reached my family. There was no announcement, no moment where I sat everyone down and explained what had shifted inside me. Instead, the change showed up in small ways, in how I listened, in how I responded, in what I chose not to argue about. At first, nothing seemed different. Life continued. Conversations happened. Family moments stayed familiar. But over time, the tone softened. I wasn't defensive. I wasn't reactive. And I wasn't trying to convince anyone of anything. That mattered more than I realized. When people sense they're not being challenged, they stop bracing themselves. How? When they realize you're not trying to win, they become more open to understanding. I learned that quiet confidence is less threatening than loud certainty. So I let my change speak through consistency. I showed respect without pretending agreement. I showed curiosity without pushing back. And I showed that difference doesn't automatically mean distance. That approach didn't fix everything. It wasn't instant. And it wasn't perfect. But it created room for questions without pressure, room for conversations without defensiveness, room for relationships to stretch instead of snapping. Some family members noticed the shift sooner than others. Some were curious. Some were cautious. And some preferred not to acknowledge it at all. I respected that. Everyone moves at their own pace, and understanding can't be rushed. What mattered most to me was staying grounded in who I was becoming without demanding that anyone else change with me. I wasn't asking for approval. I was offering stability. Over time, I realized something powerful. When change is quiet, it doesn't force people to react. It gives them space to observe. And observation leads to reflection far more often than confrontation ever does. I didn't need my family to fully understand my journey for it to be real. I just needed to remain consistent, patient, calm, and present. That consistency built trust in a way explanations never could. And slowly, without anyone naming it out loud, the dynamic shifted. Not because I demanded it, but because I lived it. For a long time, I thought freedom meant distance. That to be free, you had to leave. That independence required separation. But quiet change taught me something different. Freedom isn't about how far you go. It's about how honestly you live where you are. I learned that freedom begins when you stop performing certainty and start practicing integrity. When you no longer shape your beliefs around expectations, but around understanding. Quiet change taught me that peace doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from being comfortable with questions. It taught me that strength doesn't always look bold. Sometimes it looks steady. Sometimes it looks patient. Sometimes it looks like choosing restraint when reaction would be easier. I didn't become free by rejecting my past. I became free by integrating it, keeping what mattered and releasing what no longer fit. I learned that you can honor your upbringing without being defined by it, that you can love your family without agreeing with everything, and that you can grow without asking for permission. Quiet change also taught me that freedom doesn't need validation. It doesn't need applause. And it doesn't need an audience. It simply needs alignment. When your inner life matches your outer choices, you stop feeling divided. That alignment brought me peace I didn't even know I was missing. Not because everything around me changed, but because I did. I stopped being afraid of difference. I stopped measuring myself against expectations that weren't mine. And I'd stopped believing that staying quiet meant staying small. Quiet change isn't weakness. It's discernment. It's choosing depth over noise, meaning over momentum, and honesty over approval. I didn't break ties to become myself. I built boundaries. And those boundaries didn't push people away. They allowed me to stay without losing who I was becoming. If there's one thing this journey taught me, it's this: you don't have to leave loudly to change deeply. You don't have to explain everything to live truthfully. And you don't have to break ties to find freedom. Sometimes the most powerful transformation is the one that happens quietly and lasts